Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the motherfucking show. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm just totally unprepared. Like, totally unprepared. Oh, dude. Dude, banger. Yo, dude, banger. You know, I'm surprised I don't get copyright struck for that. That's Age of Empires 2, but maybe it's because I wear a shirt labeled PC Gamer. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some phenomenally interesting things to cover. Oh my God. Oh, my, ladies and gentlemen, look, this is real time. This is, ladies and gentlemen, you want to know why the PF Young live stream is just absolutely unbeatable? I'm about to give you information in real time here. All right, this is a live event. We don't know anything can happen. Check out what just happened here. Okay, this is breaking news. This is my Twitter, yeah. So I tweeted out. So Ali Betstucky has been talking about the term Judeo-Christian. It's not about the founding fathers being Jewish. They're referring to the shared biblical worldview. So then I said, from now on, I'll be referring to Hamas as a Judeo-Muslim organization. Okay? And then Friar Calvin Robinson, with 450,000 followers, I believe this guy's been defrocked left, right, and center. Just retweeted that. So that'll be fun. We'll let that stew. We'll let that brew while we're doing the stream here. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some fun topics to talk about. Okay? Okay. And let me just make sure all my gear is cleaned up. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is the audio solid? We should be good. We should be good. We should be good. Lights are good. Audio's good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're cruising. Okay, we will be talking about the Odyssey. I will be giving my review of the Odyssey. I will solicit feedback from people on their opinions of the Odyssey. And then we'll be discussing the epitome of dark centrism in 2026, Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes. I'll say this when we get to that segment, but for those who did or did not watch the conversation, which is just everyone, I guess, it was a little boring at times, but there were about 4 or 5 meaty segments, you know, thick, girthy, protein-packed, intellectual protein-packed sections, and we'll cover those. Casey. Nick Fuentes and Hunter Biden are getting along while Destiny and Professor Dave are fighting. I don't do this channel to say I told you so, okay? I do this channel because every couple of months, a new crop of people comes through and says, hey, man, when I first came across your content, I thought this guy's crazy or this guy's, wrong. And now I see he was correct. I don't get any joy out of saying I told you so. I get out of joy of people coming to me and saying, hey, man, you were right. And I go, listen, my brother in Christ, I am more ignorant than you in many ways, I'm certain. So merely because I happen to be right along this narrow dimension does not mean anything. Together, we will grow in knowledge. But anyway, yes, I did see Professor Dave going after Destiny. It's wonderful. This is sort of like, this is very British. I feel like I'm I feel like I'm a very minor lieutenant in the British mandate in the Middle East in like the 1930s. And I'm watching as people are, as the warring tribes are turning against each other. Oh, the liberals are all on one team. Professor Dave and Destiny are all on one team. Turns out they're not. Can you talk about your Philadelphia event? I think I can. because I'm going to be filming some stuff while I'm there. However, out of an abundance of caution and respect, I'm not going to yet until I get confirmation that's cool to talk about it. But I will definitely, it's not a secret thing. I will, like I said, part of the reason they're bringing me out there is because I'm going to do an interview with some of the people, or at least some of them. But I do appreciate the curiosity, Mr. Rogers. Okay, hold up. Got to grab my tea. 1 sec. Wait. This is what I'm going to do every time I get up from my chair. Look at that. Perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen. The prepared segments will begin soon, but in the meantime, oh, please don't tell me I fucking. Oh my God. I can't have the gay disco in the background the whole time. Oh my brother. Whoa there, Henry. All right. Sorry. We're back. We are back. Do I like Norm Macdonald? Yes. Despite my apparent insanity, I do have some very neurotypical, mentally healthy takes, like that Norman Macdonald is a person worth admiring comedically. What kind of tea? This is a Bigelow. Bigelow lemon ginger with probiotics. Helps digestion. Big probiotics guy. You know what I mean? Sip on something. I was up at 7:30 this morning. We'll stream for 2 hours. Be done by 9:30. I'll have my probiotic tea, shower, wind down, be in bed by 11. Get up tomorrow, same time, 7:30. Rinse and repeat. Do that Wednesday, Thursday. And then we're chilling. Probiotics, though. Let me tell you. Okay, this is too hot. I just steeped it. What am I doing? All right, but like I said, we'll let people filter in. We'll let people filter in before we begin the next segment. I'll engage with chat. Ooh, Ivar the Boneless. Crocky mate. That's Australian, and these are British pounds. What's my British accent? My good sir. I'll do the accent of whatever currency people donate to me in. I'm Ivar the Boneless. I appreciate your support. Casting Helen of Troy as a black woman. Oh, God. I'll do it in a British accent. Casting Helen of Troy as a black woman is a purposeful attack on European cultural heritage and a detriment to the believability of the character. It is done with an ideological agenda. Listen, Ivar the Boneless, first off, I appreciate the super chat. You were not the first person to raise this point. I see the truth in the perception that appears in your eyes, although I think it is not as complete as you might think it is. I think that the cat. Well, I'll get into this. You know what? I'll get into this. Well, during the review. Hold on. Let me write this down. Ivar the Boneless. Thank you for enhancing my commentary here. I did write a lot of notes down. Hold on. Where is it? Black Helen of Troy. Doodly-doo. Okay, thank you for enhancing my commentary. We'll come back to that. I'll save our comments here. I don't want to spoil anything because I have opinions on the Odyssey. Also, if you haven't seen it, I would advise not watching this stream. At least come back in like an hour or something. But anyway, we'll get to that. Travis Scott was unironically good in the Odyssey, but the world isn't ready for that take. I won't lie. I shouldn't say this. Well, here's what I'll say this up front, and then when I cut this up into the videos that I post on my channel, I won't include this. I actually missed the first like 3 minutes of the movie because we were fucking late. Because we were at dinner, and some people showed up late, and then I was like, "Yo, let's go! I want to go. Let's go." We're hanging around, like, "Oh, let's get drinks." It's like, what are we doing here? Why are we not in the movie? Anyway, but I did look. In the middle of the movie, or not in the middle, like so we showed up probably 3 or 4 minutes after the movie started, and I open up Claude, the Claude AI app on my phone, and I say, "I showed up to the movie late. What did I miss in the first 5 minutes?" And it made the point. It made a point that was actually important to know to contextualize the end of the movie because I missed the very opening of the movie. Helen is white. She got severely sunburned in the trip back home. Greek heritage does not belong to you filthy Brits or your European identity. If anything, it's more Middle Eastern than anything. Straight shot at you, Ivar. That's a straight shot as you. Listen, nobody loves fostering or would it be intra-European conflict more than intra-European racial conflict. No, let me take it from the top. Nobody loves fostering intra-racial European ethnic conflict more than I do because it facilitates the basic understanding that we are all made in the image of God, and only through recognition of the spark of the divine that we all contain can we unite. No, I think it'd be intra. Inter means between, like an interstate highway is between highways. Intra, I believe, means within. So intra-European would be within. This could be my undiagnosed, potentially undiagnosed, well, certainly undiagnosed autism coming through. Anyway, there we go. Somebody supported me. Don't know if it's right. All right, we can get started here, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can get started here. I think we can do it. I mean, I do like just, it's very, look, I'll be honest with you. Let's get meta for a bit. I never get meta in my streams, and I certainly don't at the end when I complain about how long I've been streaming. I wouldn't say I get nervous before a stream, but because I don't know how it's going to go, and because, it's kind of like, oh, am I even able to whip myself up into a high energy state? I'm not like particularly excited right before a stream, but then we get into it, and then questions are coming. It's dynamic, and it's like, all right, this is just, it's just like, okay, I'm just doing what I like to do anyway, which is, think about things, and people, throwing shit at me, not bad stuff, but ideas and all that. It's fun, right? As a high openness individual, it's fun for me. And I recognize that it's a extreme. It's a significant privilege that I have, that as someone who's high openness, I have an outlet to discuss ideas and all that. So I appreciate it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the Odyssey. Okay. I'm going to more or less read off my notes. I mean, I wrote down a bunch of stuff, and I want to make sure I capture it all. So I'll give the gist of it. So how do I start this? Let me take a sip. Oh. Sorry, that's rude. Okay. Odyssey. What I wanted to say at the beginning. So going into the Odyssey, I was very interested because many people were split on this. There are people I don't like who were split on it. So Matt Walsh said it was really bad. Ben Shapiro said it was good. I don't like either of them. Jonathan Peugeot said it was good. Jester Bell, a.k.a. female Frodo Baggins, said it was bad. And I like both of them. And so I was very interested going into it. Now, just for your reference, I tend to be very critical of movies in general, okay? It is far more often the case that I come out of the theater disappointed than satisfied and happy. I did think Obsession was good lately. I thought Backrooms was okay. I actually thought Power Ballad with Paul Rudd and Nick Jonas was really good. Anyway, so it had a really good ending. I almost cried. That's the reference you need to know. All that being said, I thought Odyssey was very good. Okay. I would give it out of 10, 10 being perfect, 5 being average, right? Normal distribution. I'd give it an 8.5. It was the definition of an epic movie. The production value was great. The acting was perfectly solid for what it needed to be. Okay. And I particularly liked the theme of the movie, where Troy is like this original sin against the law of Zeus, and Odysseus playing a trick, like, breaking the law of Zeus, needed to be atoned for through all this different things. And I thought it was great. Now, just one interesting thing I saw. I purposely did not look up most people's review of this. I saw what Matt Walsh tweeted, and I didn't watch Jonathan Peugeot or anything. I saw, I knew what their opinions were, but I didn't watch the breakdowns. I did see this one, though, and I thought this was funny. Talking about pagans out here. So this is Dr. Johannes Niederhauser, The Christianization of Homer. He called the Odyssey a subversion. Here's what he said.
Is in defiance of the gods. But we must understand this, let's say, subtitle, Defy the Gods, as an attack on polytheism, on paganism, on heathenism. It is an attack on the pantheon, no less, by that one very jealous God who assumes for himself his sole power, who doesn't allow any gods next to him, who deems them to be idols. That is the subliminal message that is incepted into the minds of the masses, the cattle, the masses who watch that movie, who watch it just as any other Marvel superhero movie. That is the message they will take home, even if they don't know it.
All right, first off, I think it's rude to refer to the average person as cattle. I prefer peasant, right? At least it retains the humanity and it fits within the framework of mimetic feudalism. That aside, part of the reason I love the movie is because I thought it had I guess it is Christian in its theming. The idea that Odysseus committed a great sin at Troy, and this is all him making up for it. But anyway, so that was fun. Now, here's some critiques. The movie did feel rushed at the beginning. in particular. They go into the Cyclops cave, and they just seem to get too acclimated to the situation too quickly, right? They've been there for like an hour, but they're behaving as if they've been enduring the situation for like weeks. Like, oh wait, we already know his routine, and we already know a plan to get out of there. It's like it was too quick. Then in one scene, they're told they need to go to Hades, and it's like the next scene, they're just in Hades, hell. It's like, you need to go to Hades. It's like, all right, it's just a left turn down that street, and they're just in hell. It's like, all right, that was quick. And the scenes with like the giants in armor and then the sirens, those were like 5 minutes each. I get why they had to do that. They had to hit all the beats of the Odyssey, the original Homeric poem. And so obviously some stuff was going to be rushed. The scene with Cersei, the pig lady, that felt like the right length. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Now, people who are saying it was too woke, I think you lose all credibility. Okay, Matt Walsh is a little bitch. He is a proven ideologue. He's not to be taken seriously when it comes to art or culture. I mean, he'll still say true things every now and then, but it's honestly embarrassing to get as mad as he does. Helen of Troy being a black woman. Let's talk about it. First off, there were black people in the original Homeric poem. I have a copy of the Iliad. It's like an illustrated Iliad. I remember reading it when I was 12. And Memnon, I believe it was King Memnon, was from Ethiopia, who fought on behalf of Troy. So there were legitimate black people at Troy, in that vicinity, in that cultural milieu. So the fact that there are black people in this like world, it's pulling me out of the universe. If this was set like in medieval England or in Viking times, then fine. I can understand this is so forced, it actually takes you out of it. But it really doesn't. Helen of Troy is in the scene for like 5 minutes, if that. And then Odysseus's first mate, I thought was perfect, played his role perfectly. I don't think John Leguizamo is a good actor or whatever his name is. So whatever. Elliot Page was perfectly casted. Okay. Elliot Page played a weak and effeminate man that everyone lies to. Okay. Which is literally what Elliot Page is as a person, or metaphorically. I don't know. So there wasn't really any disconnect in that choice there. So I thought the casting was good. The idea that it was woke casting, I think, is just kind of nonsense. Now, to White Iverson's point, or what was his name? Ivar, the boneless. White Ivar. Casting Helen of Troy as a black woman is a purposeful attack on European cultural heritage. It's done with an ideological agenda. Look, I sympathize with you, like I sympathize everyone who I think is wrong. Okay? And you're not entirely wrong. There obviously is a woke cultural milieu that Hollywood is embroiled in. I mean, in order to win an Oscar, you have to cast a certain amount of like black people. That's how like straight up systematically woke things are in Hollywood. So yes, was the casting of Helen Troy intentional and done with an ideological agenda? Yes. Did Christopher Nolan do it as a purposeful attack on European cultural heritage? Excuse me. No, I think he did it because he needed to, because that's the business model he's in. It's just classic HR fucking up the project manager. So, I understand, but it's not that big of a deal. People need to get over it. Okay. There were black people at Troy. All right. Now, Agamemnon. I thought it was cool. Okay. I thought that armor, yeah, it's a little space marine like, but I thought it was pretty cool. Now, Agamemnon should have been casted and played by Henry Cavill. Okay. Instead, it was this, you never see his face, but it's this like glass houses here, but it's like this beta male looking guy named Benny Safdie or something, who plays like the most, warlike king or whatever. This is what he looks like. It's like, bro, this guy does not impose on people. What's going on here? What's going on? We need the absolute Chad playing Agamemnon here. Okay? This is the correct take. Agamemnon should not have been played by a beta adjacent looking person. All right? Physiognomy checks are directionally correct. They're not always correct. Anyway, now, dialogue. People complained about the fact that this was spoken, or people complained about the fact that the dialogue was very prosaic, in that it sounds like how people talk every day in like 2026. And to be honest, it worked. It was fine. It didn't pull me out of it. And if I had a nickel for every time I didn't get pulled out. And it was poetic when it needed to be. So when Matt Walsh, this is my friend Theo pointed this out, like when Matt Walsh was describing the Siren song, it was not prosaic at all. It was very poetic and elegantly done. And then when he was talking to Penelope at the end of the movie, he was speaking poetically. So the fact that it was like, oh my God, they say dad and let's go and all that. I agree the trailers looked like it sucked. But there's a lot of misinformation too that was coloring that perception of the trailers, because it was a legitimate rumor that Elliot Page was going to play Achilles. And if that was the case, then we could just throw the whole movie away to begin with, because then there'd be no seriousness upon even entering the world. But I thought the dialogue was good. Now, my hot take, the final scene almost seemed, it wasn't unnecessary, but it was unnecessarily long. So Odysseus comes back, and I just don't understand the plan of, all right, we're going to lock Odysseus in a room. This guy that's been atrophying for 10 years on an island. We're going to lock him in a room with 100 people and have him kill them all without any real support. We're going to hide the weapons and all that. It felt like a video game. It felt like you were playing a video game and you had to like go stop the guy giving weapons to people in order to make the boss less powerful so you could kill him and all that. What should have happened was nobody knew it was Odysseus except Tom Holland, Telemachus. And then he reveals himself in the same way by pulling that cord, which was super cool. And then Anne Hathaway looks at him like, oh my God, is that my Chad fucking husband over there? That would have been cool. We didn't get that. To be honest, it felt like we got robbed of Anne Hathaway's. It felt like we got robbed of Anne Hathaway's like realization that the guy, the beggar she's talking to, was Odysseus, because she sprung into like the plan too quickly, right? So he reveals it himself by playing the bowstring. And then she's like, all right, quick, everyone get behind the wall so we can let Odysseus kill everyone. And it's like, wait, so you knew the whole time? It felt like we were robbed of that catharsis. And what should have happened is Odysseus should have shot the guy in the neck, same as normal, same as it happened, which is great. And then everyone should have been like, oh shit, bow down. And then Robert Pattinson should have like tried to charge him from the back. And then Odysseus could have stabbed him in the throat and it could have played out normally, you know, with all the dialogue and all that. And yeah, and then I think if you made the last scene not as long, you could have extended other scenes like the siren scene or the giants scene. So, but overall, 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was a great movie. You should definitely go see it. Yeah, I will go and watch other people's opinions on it. Well, maybe we can watch. There's been one person who I haven't seen yet, but I've been curious to see his take. Never mind. We're not going to watch Nick Fuentes' review of the Odyssey because he says the N-word. And look, nobody loves saying the N-word more than I do. Okay, first off, it's the worst word to say. Right? That's why it's fun to say. You never direct it at someone. You never use it derogatorily. You never use it talking about a black person. But if you're quoting a Dave Chappelle joke, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's such a culturally powerful mimetic phrase in terms of its humor. and just linguistic poetry. Anyway, that's my opinion on the Odyssey. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me engage now with my chat. Okay. I have the chat up, and I would like to know, I haven't been paying attention, as you know. This is why you watch the videos, right? I do the live stream, and then I cut up the live stream and post videos, right? So I'm not paying attention. I'm not letting my mind be poisoned by the collective low IQ that is made up here by the Destiny fans and Nick Fuentes fans that make up 40% of my chat. Anyway, just kidding. Well, only partially. It's not 40%. Maybe it's 20%. What do people think? Okay. Tell me why I'm wrong. Do you agree with one of my takes? What's going on? PF, where did you get that you have to have cast black people to be nominated for an Oscar? Oh, KP McGee. Here, let's ask Mecha Hitler. Let's ask Rock. What are the diversity requirements to win an Oscar nowadays that were implemented? I feel like in the last couple of years. We're going to look it up, ladies and gentlemen. We're asking Mecha Hitler. I have not seen Oppenheimer yet. Here. By the way, here's my movie list. By the way, I have a notes app. Here are the movies I still have yet to see. I will take suggestions, by the way. Okay, hold on. I'll pull this up. One sec. Where is it? Movies. Here we go. So these are the movies that I have yet to see: Oppenheimer, Munich, Dunkirk, Master and Commander, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Hail Mary, All Quiet on the Western Front, Whiplash. That's probably my number one that I need to see. Clockwork Orange, Unknown Number. Okay, here. Let's see what Mecha Hitler has to say. Anyway, I will take movie suggestions, by the way. These are the Academy of Motion Pictures. They apply only to the eligibility for Best Picture consideration, not to other Oscar categories. Okay. And not as a requirement to win, only to compete. Well, wait a minute. The Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. Not as a requirement to win, only to compete. Okay, well, in order to win, you have to compete. So it is a requirement to win by proxy. A film must meet at least 2 of the 4 standards, A, B, C, or D. Why don't we just go to the... Why is this on the Oscars website? A film can achieve this standard. Okay, the Academy... Here we go. Let's just read it. Oops, sorry. Okay, Oscars.org. Representation and inclusion. The Academy of Motion Pictures standards for Oscars eligibility in the Best Picture category are designed to encourage equitable representation. I feel like I should be using this. Standard A. A film can achieve this standard by meeting the criteria in at least one of the following areas: lead or significant supporting actors from underrepresented racial or ethnic groups. Black person, basically. So in order to be eligible for Best Picture, you have to have a lead or significant, or a general ensemble cast, at least 30% of all actors from at least 2 underrepresented groups. Main storyline subject matter, standard B, yeah, or people who have like the cameras or whatever. Need to be black or something like that. So this is why Helen of Troy was casted as a black woman. Not because Christopher Nolan wants to dismantle European identity, but because the HR department that he works for told him, hey, in order to win Best Picture, you got to do these requirements. So it is what it is. Okay, what else, ladies and gentlemen? What else? What else am I wrong about? What opinions do you have on the Odyssey? Whoops. Casting the epitome of Greek feminine beauty as a black person is deliberate provocation by Nolan. If he wanted the awards for diversity, he could in a less antagonistic way. But he did cast Anne Hathaway. And as we all know, despite Anne Hathaway's misguided political views, let's say, what's the video of her going like, gayness orbits straightness? She says it in like the most condescending way. I'm very sympathetic to the term mansplaining, because mansplaining is a term that only women can understand, truly, because it's when a man explains something to you condescendingly. There needs to be a word for when women do this. When women do the there is a word. There's an archetype of it. What is it? Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter, right? Dolores Umbridging. This is the embodiment of Dolores Umbridge. Right here.
With the exception of being a cisgender male, everything about how I was born has put me at the current center of a damaging and widely accepted myth. That myth is that gayness orbits around straightness, transgender orbits around cisgender, and that all races orbit around whiteness. And it is a myth that keeps money and power in the hands of the few instead of being invested in the lives of the free. I appreciate this community so much because it's where I learned to reject this myth. I appreciate this community because together, we are not just going to question this myth, we are going to destroy it.
Classic. Anyway, despite that being the cultural programming that Anne Hathaway is running on, she's the epitome of Western beauty, I'll tell you that. Okay, were there women that are more attractive than Lupita, whatever her name is? Probably. Who's the hottest black women around? Isn't hold on, this might be racist if I get her race wrong. Russell Wilson's wife or ex-wife? No, current wife. Ciara? Look, I'm not in the business of objectifying unironically. Because we're talking about the casting, I will answer this, but I'm not going to pull up women and rate them on stream, okay? We'll do that to men because I am a man, and I'm woke, and I believe in all that nonsense. You're allowed to be racist against your own race, okay? But anyway, just look up Ciara, okay? Ciara, Russell Wilson's wife. Oh, my God. Hot black woman. Yo, shout out Pat Frink. Oh. Appreciate the membership, sir. Hottest black man is probably... This is not funny, man. Mods, remove this man. Mods, remove this man. All right. What other opinions do we have before we get into Hunter Biden here? Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes, which, by the way, I'm very much looking forward to this next segment because this was an interesting interview. And before we begin, we'll continue talking about the Odyssey for a minute here. How do I do a poll? I got to do this in YouTube. I'm going to ask people. I should have asked if people have seen the Odyssey yet. I'm hoping. I would advise. Well, it's too late now. Don't watch this if you haven't seen it yet. Where is the poll? Here we go. Start a poll. Have you watched the Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes interview? Have you watched the Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes interview? Yes, most of it or all of it. No, only clips or not at all. But I'm a pretty good pollster. I feel like my pollster options are pretty good. Now, people will bitch at me and be like, this is not a good poll. You know, oh, you should define what it means to be right and left wing. No, that's just the fucking point. Part of the information I'm gathering is understanding people's perception of the average person. All right, I put the poll in. Damn, 70% of people have watched most of it or all of it. That's, well, I guess this is my live streaming audience, so you're as terminally online as I am, I suppose. Interesting. All right, what else? What else about the Odyssey? Let's talk art. Let's talk art. You know, nobody loves aesthetics more than I do. Now, archetypes. I should be doing some archetypal analysis here, but the whole movie's archetypal, so. Also, the whole thing about Odysseus being like a tortured soul, as if that's like a bad thing. It's like, no, he violated the law of Zeus, right? And he has to pay the price. It is kind of fucked up what the Greeks did to the Trojans. Okay, I was always rooting for the Trojans, even in the Iliad and in the movie with Brad Pitt. Eric Bana, I love Eric Bana. Eric Bana, what else is he in? He's in something else too. He's the Hulk, I know that. But what's the other movie that I saw that I was like, oh, that's what's his face? That's Hector from Troy. Was it Hulk? Maybe. Oh, he's in Munich. Look at that. Oh, and he's in Black Hawk Down, right? Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, hold on. It was a good adaptation. I hate these convos about immersion. Well, look, there's a fundamental principle. Actually, holy shit. I can't believe I never posted this. Wait a minute. Did I lose it? Wait a minute. You know, I wrote an article about immersion. Oh. Okay, wait a minute. Where would this have gone? I wrote an article about, so there was this controversy. For those who are familiar with Warhammer 40K, if you're not, it's basically a sci-fi universe that's very gritty and grim, kind of steampunk. Not really steampunky is the right term, but a little bit. But it's very gritty and blood and guts is the whole kind of endless war is the theme. And there's this faction of superhumans called the Adeptus Custodes. Doesn't really matter what they're called. And they were always men for the most part. And then like a year or two ago, actually more than that, like 2 or 3 years ago, they added female Adeptus Custodes, and it caused a whole hullabaloo because everyone's like, if you're trying to go for peak physical prowess, you'd obviously pick a man because men are always going to be more the most physically prowessful people are always going to be men. And so like putting women in there makes it feel forced. Plus, women, there are female only factions that were completely were completely dope. Adeptus Sororitas. And anyway, I wrote an article about immersion and believability and all that. And now I'm worried that it's gone, although I feel like I saved it somewhere. I may release that as a Substack article. Man, that's got to be somewhere. Huh. Man, I hope I didn't lose it. Anyway, must be my old Patreon. All right. Sorry. Let me catch up with these comments here. Do I think the sound mixing was off? Not particularly. Anyway, what are the stream results, by the way? A third of people have not seen it. Okay, that's good. That'll be interesting. Travis Scott was off. Again, I didn't see the first 5 minutes, so I missed it. Point isn't immersion. It's that immersion is sacrificed in the name of ideology. Yeah, look, here's my 1 or 2 sentence point on one of the most midwit takes when it comes to film critique or critique of like sci-fi. You will hear this take from midwits all the time. Someone will say something. People will be upset with a sci-fi or fantasy movie because there's some aspect of it that doesn't seem to make sense. And what the midwit will say is that, oh my God, oh yeah, you're right. A female warrior priest is not going to make sense in this world that has orcs and magic and elves and UFOs and shit like that if it's sci-fi. And this is the dumbest critique of all time, because there's something called immersion versus believability versus realism. Lord of the Rings is not realistic because fucking orcs are not real. However, if you were watching Lord of the Rings and instead of the army of the dead coming in at the last scene, instead a UFO landed and a bunch of aliens came out and shot the orcs up, people would go, everyone would rightfully go, what the fuck is this? This doesn't make any goddamn sense. Aliens in Lord of the Rings? And then all these midwits, these loser midwits, would go, wait a minute, you're complaining about aliens and UFOs in a world with orcs and wizards? Get over yourself. What are you, a 30-year-old man complaining about this? And what these largely autistic, socially maladapted, metaphysically pathetic individuals are trying to put forward poorly is that, this thing that doesn't fit into real life, like the degree to which something maps onto reality is not what makes a movie good or not. And that's true. But immersion is the ability to step into a world that is, here's the key thing, internally coherent. Internal coherence is necessary to be immersed in a world and to make it believable, not realistic. Okay, Star Wars is very internally coherent because there are consistent rules and sort of literal physics within the universe, the way the Force works. I mean, for anyone, this is why the Star Wars universe in particular is great at it. For those who know the Star Wars cross sections, those books where like, you'd open it and it cuts it's like a diagram of a starship cut in half, very, very well illustrated. And it shows like, here's the engine room of the Star Destroyer. Here's the hyperdrive and all that. All of that engineering, those are like, you'll like each spaceship abides by these underlying set of, imaginary principles to create this internal sense of coherency, right? Like hyperdrives are rated 1 to 8. I think the lower they are, the faster they are. And like in the movie, when they're like, the Millennium Falcon's gone, a ship that small couldn't carry a cloaking device. A ship that small couldn't carry a cloaking device. That's reflecting a real rule. The only ships that have cloaking devices are large interdictor, or I don't know if the interdictor actually has cloaking devices, but very large spaceships, right? So the internal coherency is what makes a universe believable. And so when you do something that breaks the internal coherency of it, that's what people get upset by. And so when people talk about like woke, this was my whole point. Casting a black woman as Helen of Troy, it would very much break the internal coherence of the world, of the immersion, if it was set in medieval England. But because it is set in the Mediterranean, it is set in a world where, again, literal Ethiopians were at Troy in the original Homeric poem. It doesn't, to me, pull me out of the immersion. But I could see it being the case for people. So anyway, that was my film analysis. I'll do more film analysis. All right, ladies and gentlemen. What is this? What is Laconian? A black Laconian queen? Yeah, again, it's kind of like, yo, she's not Ethiopian, she's Greek. Yes. I get it. Look, okay, and in the movie, the Troy was not the original sin that Odysseus had to pay for. It was an adaptation. Okay? And look, as a Christian supremacist, which I suppose is not a very Christian way of framing that, but as someone who believes in the validity of Christianity, I'm very happy to subvert and to readapt the original pagan Homeric poem to something that is more congruent with the true moral ordering of the universe. Right? But I get it. Look, if you're a hardcore like if you studied the classics and you studied the original poems, you're going to have a different opinion. And that's fine. It's kind of like people who read the books. Like, oh, the Harry Potter movies are bad because the books are really good. Like, okay, this is why I don't read. I don't sour my own opinions on things. Paul, have I seen Gavin Newsom's recent conversation with David Pakman? Johnny Smith. Not only have I seen it, I saw your comment and I looked it up. Let's look it up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's live react to really what is emblematic of the kind of emergent cultural fissure that I seek to fill with my memeticism. Gavin Newsom, David Pakman. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, it's called product market fit. And let me tell you, the market is yearning.
Socialism,
Right.
to have, and I'm certainly not communism, but I'm also not like things are basically fine.
Right. Radical centrism.
Yeah, I've never met one. Have you met a radical centrist?
I don't know. What,
I don't know
what was Obama in this?
Have you met a radical centrist? Not yet, you haven't. Not yet, you haven't. Not yet, but you just wait. Once I get done playing Warhammer 40K, once I get done painting these minis, I'm going to show Gavin Newsom who the true radical centrist is. Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sick of all this racism in my chat. Okay? First off, nobody loves black women more than I do. Okay? So as far as I'm concerned, Helen of Troy being black, kosher. Okay? Let's get into Nick Fuentes and Hunter Biden. Now, what are my lawyer approved official statements on Hunter Biden? Excuse me. All right. Okay, let me pull this shit up. Enrique, get off the synths. I'm aware I have a mild lisp. Okay, but Enrique, you need to get off the synths and pull up that Hunter Biden, Nick Fuentes conversation. Nick Fuentes. Okay. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Thank you. Where are we here? The first timestamp I have. Oh, that's a good it's a good kind of setup scene. Okay. All right, my pre-statements. I didn't write any. What do I want to say? How do I set this up? A woke crackhead and a Mexican white nationalist had a conversation. It is peak dark centrism. It was kind of boring at times, so we're going to go through what I think are the most interesting and mimetically significant moments of the debate in that, they tell us the most about where culture and politics are moving. We'll start with this section.
I have a friend and you have an audience. And I have a friend whose son is my daughter's age, maybe 28, your age. And he's really smart. And he is a big fan of yours. And so by virtue of the relationship, I got to learn what it is why he is a fan of yours. And none of it has to do with, I would hope you agree, like really egregious things that you've said in the past about the Holocaust or about,
Did the Jews ever talk about the 100?
Okay. This point right here. This is such an interesting point because, This is such an interesting point because it is a demonstration of one of OG Jordan Peterson's three fundamental memes. He's got a couple phrases that are super, that's wrong to say it. He has a few phrases that everyone knows: clean your room, rescue your father from the belly of the whale. But the third one, most philosophically significant, in my opinion, is the idea that you cannot twist the fabric of reality without it snapping back on you. Okay, and what that means is you cannot operate in the world with a false view of reality without it eventually snapping back on you and causing you to trip up and pay for it. You cannot impose, even if you believe a lie, because you can believe something that isn't true, you cannot impose a lie onto the world and not have it bite you in the ass. For example, imagine you're someone who believes that everyone who supports Israel is literally a Nazi, is a modern day equivalent to a Nazi. You will go around in the world thinking that, and then you will meet someone at work or a friend of a friend or something, and you'll get to be friends with them. And then you'll learn they're Jewish and their grandparents were killed in the Holocaust and they're big fans of Israel. And then you will be completely conflicted because you'll be like, oh my God, wait a minute, this person's a Nazi. And then you will either very creepily be forced to now end that friendship and believe that person's a bad person when they're not. Or you will have to suffer a sort of identity loss because this axiom that you built part of your identity on, that everyone who supports Israel is a Nazi, because that's part and parcel of a broader progressive worldview generally, that has to be dissolved. So you're gonna pay for it either way, right? The same principle applies to, for example, I think being gay is a choice. And then, you go out in the world and you meet people and it's like, nope, I was raised in a perfectly good home. I had a masculine figure in my life and I just ended up gay anyway. You eventually either have to continue to have a wrong worldview and think that everyone who's gay is somehow mentally ill, or you have to give up your ideological presuppositions about, gayness being bad. There's a good Jung quote from the OG Carl Jung. The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That is to say, when the individual remains undivided and does not become conscious of his inner opposite, is not aware of the shadow, undivided, the shadow and the ego are mixed because you don't recognize the shadow as such, The world must perforce act out the conflict and be torn into opposing halves. Okay, meaning if you think that only the people you disagree with are Nazis, and you don't realize that actually you have the capacity with evil within you, then you will run around thinking that normal people are actually evil people, when that's nonsense. So if you are under the assumption that Nick Fuentes is literally a neo-Nazi, you're delusional. You have a piss poor model of the world that is false. It does not map onto reality. If you think Nick Fuentes is literally like Adolf Hitler, then you're a goof. If you don't understand what iconoclasm is, we'll have to do a separate video on that because you need to understand that word, because that explains all of Nick Fuentes' affinity, quote unquote, for Hitler. And so, you know, people are like, oh, we shouldn't platform Nick Fuentes. We should just ostracize him and all that. It's like, no. You can't do that, because the world will perforce force you to engage in the truth. You can't twist the fabric of reality without it snapping back, right? It's like a squishy ball. You can't, when you squish a ball, one of those rubber balls, like, you know, it expands beyond your fingers. That's what reality is like, okay? You cannot impose a false worldview. Truth will always find its way out. Anyway, that's what this demonstrates. I thought that was interesting. Let's talk about white culture.
Unbothered, or were they?
It's like, you know, there is like places that are chocolate, like South Philly is full of Italians.
There's Little Italy and there's Little Korea.
I
and
think
there's
the issue,
Japan.
what I always like, what confused me the most about the whites only community is like, there's just so many different kinds of white people in America. You know, so like to establish a unified white culture with a place so diverse and full of like different regional flavors just kind of felt confusing to me, because that could mean a different thing depending on what part of the country or what European enclave you originated from. Like, we're Irish people from the Philly area. Can you compare that to like, you know, surfers in San Diego, or even like, you know, Italian Americans in Staten Island? I don't know. Everything just feels so different. So when I got there, I was trying to identify what they meant by white culture. It wasn't really based on shared like cultural practices, but more the exclusion of people who weren't white. So they weren't like stoked on being European necessarily. They were more just like, oh, we're here because those people aren't here. So it just kind of felt more negative than constructive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not really involved with that project in particular.
Okay, hold on. On the topic of white culture.
This idea that the biggest problem that you have that with your personal situation and how you extrapolate that to the situation of other white kids that are your age, that feel disenfranchised, that feel left out, that feel they don't have a shot at the American dream, is because of, we need to build a wall. Where's the wall, Nick? Because you know why? Because they were dirty, poor, non-Europeans. They were Irish. Every time it's wrong. Every time history has proven that to be wrong in the United States of America. Every time. Inclusion has been our greatest strength. Diversity has been our greatest strength. And I hear you talk about this idea of white culture. What fucking white culture are you talking about, man? What
Shakespeare, Dante, Mozart. We're in Philadelphia, the founding fathers.
Yeah.
That's your white
culture. How about
culture.
the Count of Monte Cristo? Would you consider that part of our white culture?
Sure.
Okay. Well, it was written by a black man in France in the 1700s.
In a milieu of European civilization.
So what?
Because you're picking out one example. It really is.
I'm not just picking out one example.
It really is.
All right, it goes off the rail here. White culture, right? The epitome of white excellence here. Now, where are my notes on this? I did some forethought. The point about, well, white culture is different everywhere you go. There's different Europeans. There's different European cultures, and so there's no such thing as white culture. It's like, what are you talking about? It's called ethnogenesis. New cultures are created all the time as a result of different cultures blending together. I have a friend who's very right-wing, and he can trace his ancestors back to like the Mayflower, and he's an Anglo. And I'm Slavic. I'm Polish. My dad's second generation immigrant, I suppose. My grandmother was born on Ellis Island, and then my grandfather, who's also Polish, I think came a little bit before her when he was young or something. My grandfather didn't speak any Polish. So I'm Slavic technically. And I always joke with my right-wing friend, because he's like, oh, because he's big on like, you know, Americans and Anglo kind of culture. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know, you and me, we're equally American. Knowing it upsets him, because his thing is like, no, you know, American culture is Anglo, not Slavic. The Slavs came later. But like the joke is, the idea that me and my friend, who are both white kids who grew up in white suburban Midwest towns, and both of our parents and our grandparents all grew up and were born in, or we're all lived in the United States. The idea that we're not equally white, we're not equally white American, is so laughably self-evidently false. And it actually is more of a right-wing view, like, oh, only the Anglos are the true white thing. So there is something called ethnogenesis. To be a white European mutt is to be a culmination of many cultures. To be able to say, yes, broadly speaking, white Americans have their lineage in many different European cultures, and we're not strictly bound to one. But, we are European broadly, and that's perfectly fine, and what happened was, for the longest time, and to be fair, people were very anti-white identitarianism and white supremacy because of all the genuine systemic and real racism that occurred, in the past, in the 70s, 80s, and, to this day still occurs to some degree. But then we overcorrected and everyone started shitting on white people and it became super normalized to just constantly mock white people and all that. And so now the average person is like, yeah, okay, look, we need to not go too far in either direction. Let's actually, what is American white culture? Like, we're open to it. And this is my whole point. If you are truly on the bleeding edge of culture, if you are an artist, if you are someone who engages in culture crafting, right, there is an opportunity to create, to engage in ethnogenesis. It occurs all the time. Okay, when the Spanish colonized Mexico and the South America, created new cultures, right? Modern Mexicans they speak Spanish, which is not the native language of the Aztecs, believe it or not. But there's a mix there. So it created something new. Freaking Cajun French shit. It's all, ethnogenesis occurs all the time. So we've been around long enough where this new culture can emerge in a more cohesive sense. Doesn't mean it has to be defined on paper, because that can never be defined. But I just totally reject this idea that, well, white culture doesn't exist because, European culture is a thing. It's like, brother, all the white suburban kids, whether you're Slavic, Anglo, Italian, Spanish, if your parents have been here for multiple generations and you've never really had a super strong sense of like European pride, you're a white American. That's your identity. So the question is, what is that going to look like? And I think that is a question that can have a genuinely pro-social positive answer. And I'm not the one to necessarily answer it. I'll try my best, but I think there's a lot of intelligent, creative, artistic people who are capable of contributing to that answer. I'm simply the one drawing attention to the fact that it's a question to begin with. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? There's a Donald Trump. It's like, I love the poor. I just don't want one of them running the Secretary of the Economy or the Secretary of Commerce. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Anyway. Oh, and then on this point, I was just in Los Angeles over the weekend and met up with a friend there who is big into bluegrass. And he reached out to me because of me trying to ask these questions about what is an American and what is the white American identity. And he pointed out, like, bluegrass is a central kind of American musical concept. That's a blend of many things. And I think that's a perfect example of, like, that's culture crafting. Normalize bluegrass, mainstream bluegrass music. And he sent me a really good album that I listened on the plane. That's epic. But anyway, let's continue.
Look,
That's not how it started, though.
This is a legitimate argument, but it's Nick.
Nick, Hunter,
Yeah.
what do you guys
Yeah.
make of the concept of community collapse? Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's got nothing to do with race, got nothing to do with money, but this is kind of a crazy stat. So in 2019, before COVID, 76% of Americans said they were a part of an in-person community that gave them some kind of value. After COVID, and this year, it was 19%. So I think that politics and race aside, one of the biggest issues is the collapse of social bonds, third spaces, communities, in-person engagement, which comes with loneliness, more time online, and more division. I understand that. I feel like you guys aren't going to agree. I want to talk about what you guys think can be done on an individual and community level to stop people from hating each other and to create more belonging and engagement.
Well, no.
They don't really give good answers to this. They just go back and forth to bitching. So then I'll pick up where he actually answers it.
We need something new. And I'm not trying to draw this like male loneliness, like incel pipeline that the media tries to do all the time. But do you see a connection there between like people being lonely and having less friends and
Oh,
subcultural
absolutely.
choice taking over community value systems or community engagement and people just like driving to the extreme?
100%. I think social dislocation is probably the number one problem of our times, because you look at the young people and you're right. It is one of those essential human needs, is to connect and have that sense of familiarity, to be seen, to see and to be seen. And that's something young people don't have. And I think, by the way, you look at the way young people socialize and even the mentality, I think a lot of young people have this absolute drive to go to college. Why? It's an extension of high school. And what do high school and college have in common? It's a community. You're in the quad. You can see and be seen. There's sort of like a status, reputation. You're constantly involved with other people. And I think everybody, young people, look at when they graduate from college like falling off a cliff and now life is over. Because now you just have your job, the gym, and going back home, and that's it. And this is why a lot of young people then want to move to the big cities.
Bro, that hits. You just have your job, you go to the gym, and then you come back. Been there before.
To go to New York, got to go to Chicago or LA where it's happening. And they want to get a condo or an apartment downtown because they want to go to the bar scene and extend college a little bit longer. And I think that's just not really a sustainable way to have a society. There has to be a way for people to still have that sense of community outside of, let's say, college and high school, even into their adulthood and then into their old age. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems going on. And I agree. I think it drives, even to your point about the whites only community in Arkansas, I think it is driving these, let's call it ghettoization or insulation of people going into these artificial values-based communities.
Yeah.
Because where are you going to find people? Go online, start spouting about politics, or, even not just for incels and right wingers, but even on the left. Someone like Tyler Robinson, he's on Discord. He's on Discord with all of the Overwatch players and all the LGBTQ or whatever. And I think that, there's a tendency there where everybody kind of amplifies some of the resentment or feelings there. So I agree. That's a huge driver.
So,
okay. I think I don't think there were any lies in any of what Nick said there. 100%, this is a serious issue. Now, I have a couple things to say on it. And I should have wrote them down. Fuck. What was I going to say? Hold on. What was I going to fucking say? I can't believe it. Well, anyway, I guess the phrase "kill the internet" comes to mind. Okay, for those who know CJ the X, CJ the X is someone whom I admire greatly, and his project is trying to use the internet to create real life connection to get off the internet, essentially. And I think that's important. And I will say, this is the reality of cynical plugs. This is going to have to be an advertisement for the PFing Patreon. Okay. But two things can be true at once. It can be an advertisement and also making a genuine point. But to my point earlier about the bluegrass thing, for the past, the PF Young Ivory Tower Discord server has been around for, it'll be a year now in August. And right here, this is Nate, exomusicologist. This is the bluegrass guy. So I went to LA because I have a friend from high school who lives out there. And I was able to meet up with Nate and two other people from the Patreon. And he got me into a private club while he was playing a show, and it was fucking sick. And I actually have a $35 guitar pick that he gave me. And guess what? I'm going to string some fucking chords, okay? And so one of the interesting things that have been a unexpected project that I've been working on is actually trying to build the best online discussion community that one can build. And how do you do that? Well, you make it, you try to bring into as much real life norms as possible. For example, have your cameras on, please, in discussion groups, if possible. We do meet the patron interviews. So, you get like there's like 20 some people who've done interviews already that are like 20 minutes long, and it says who they are and kind of what they're interested in. And it's a place where people who are interested in ideas can come together and discuss things. I will say, I've been very skeptical of online community, and I still am. However, this is my specific point. There's a great video from Jordan Peterson, which is basically like, if, it's called Advice for Intellectual People, or advice for people who are like interested in ideas. And I'm going to say this very clearly. And I'm not going to offend anyone, because if you're watching the stream, this is not going to apply to you. Most people aren't interested in ideas. Okay. Most people are not like you or I. Most people genuinely think that talking about or thinking about politics or philosophy is like weird or not useful or unproductive. And to be fair, it's understandable why. You have a lot of comic book guy people, like from The Simpsons, who are intelligent and their whole lives are miserable and all that. And all they care about is politics and division, which is what Nick's point is. However, it is absolutely the case that there are many, many people who are, simply by virtue of being on the extreme end of the openness, the extreme end of the distribution of openness to experience, who live and die through discussion of ideas. Okay. I would waste away if I did not have an outlet to talk about ideas and couldn't communicate with other people and all that. That's what this YouTube channel serves for me in large part. And so for people who are like that, I do think healthy online spaces that are centered around the discussion and exchange of ideas provide a greater level of community and connection than they would just someone else who's not interested in ideas. Because, it's obvious, it's always better to be in person, but like, I suspect most people knowing this, if you're the kind of person who likes having DMCs, deep, meaningful conversations, you can have a pretty deep, meaningful conversation over a FaceTime. You can have a 3-hour FaceTime about ideas and it be somewhat similar to what it's like in person. It's not the same. In person is better. So if you are able to get fulfillment from the discussion of abstract, complex ideas, having an online space where that's possible is a good thing. And I think from that, then you can build more real life, meaningful connections. And like I said, the Ivory Tower Discord server has been around for a year now, and I'm actually quite proud of it. Now, don't everybody rush to join in and fuck up the whole vibe we have going, because we don't have enough mods, and we're going to. I am eventually going to do like a dedicated video advertising the community and what we've built and all that. But I really like what we have so far. But the point is, we do need third spaces and spaces to communicate and spaces to develop connection. And, the whole idea that like the nuclear family is a psyop, I'm somewhat sympathetic to this, okay? Family is necessary. In Europe, like people live with their grandparents and their aunts and uncles, like it's one big community. That's great. The whole idea of, and this is like a Western American thing in particular, as soon as you graduate college, go get a job in whatever city you can to go pursue money and go pursue success and go pursue wealth. It's like, actually, no, maybe you should aim to the best of your ability to live near your family and like your friends. To this day, all of my best friends are from high school and college. My closest connections are from where I grew up, essentially. And it does suck that now my 4 or 5 closest friends all live in different cities and I have to fly to LA or Colorado or Chicago, whatever, to go visit them. So, I do think we can rebuild the social norms that hitherto have deteriorated community bonds, but we could actually rebuild them, I think. I'm optimistic about that. Anyway, back to the woke crackhead and Mexican white nationalist. Let's talk about the Jews. Oh my God. Listen, look. I'm totally aware of the whiplash of going from talking about this optimistic thing about building community and then flexing into the irony of, let's talk about the Jews. Okay. My point is, let's get to the next section that is relevant in this conversation, which coincidentally is about people of more Yiddish dispositions. Correct. Okay, but now that we've talked about that, let's move on to this next section here.
No, but as far as compassion, I more just mean straightforward. Do you feel like the rise in anti-Semitic online influencers post October 7th has given Israel more ammunition to work with in terms of casting everyone who opposes what they're doing as just like a rabid Jew hater?
In some cases, yeah, in some cases, sure. But I also think that's overstated because I think that, look, let's just be honest. I do believe the political left wants to make the Israel issue very narrow. And they want to say that the issue is this genocide in Palestine. And on some level, they think that the Israeli government is racist.
You f***ing baying pig. You f***ing bloodthirsty, violent pig dog.
And that's the problem. And I think that ignores that there is a broader conversation, and it does have to do with the Holocaust, and it does have to do with Jews as such, and Jewish nationalism and Jewish identity. So to try to shoehorn it in and say, well, if anybody goes further than this very narrow critique of Israel, well, they're actually helping Israel. I don't agree with that. I think we have to unpack the whole conversation.
Well, do you care a lot about Palestinians?
Not more than I care about anybody else.
So I guess that would be why that they would be like, okay, you're just taking advantage of this discourse.
I don't think it's taking advantage. I think that we can sympathize with the Palestinians while also realizing that, look, I'm an American. And so it's a tragedy what's happening in Palestine, but there's tragedies happening all over the world. My problem is that Israel has this influence over our government.
I'm a newcomer to politics, but not to backing the Jewish state.
And we're paying.
I 100% agree with and believe that anti-Semitism in the United States absolutely benefits Israel. If you can get American Jews, if you can get the average American Jew to believe that their Gentile neighbors are going to turn on them and do repeats of what has happened in history, then you create a necessity for Israel that is manufactured and a necessity for a Jewish state that is not actually needed, because we've had 100 years of assimilation with Jewish people. And there are many, 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 many Jews who view their Jewish identity as important, as essential to who they are, and God bless them for that. But they don't care more about Israel than the United States. They view themselves as American Jews, not Israelis, American Jews. And Israel might have a particular cultural place, but actually the existence of the state of Israel is not a fundamental necessity to being Jewish. And there are many, many Orthodox Jews who find Israel to be a blight on Judaism and such. And so I actually do think Nick Fuentes is not giving enough credit to Andrew's point that not trying to push back against genuine anti-Semitism, right, which is hatred of Jewish people on the basis of their genetics, that's a problem. And I feel like I had one other point to make, but the first one was so good, I just started being awesome. Okay, hold on. Here's the other section. This is interesting. All that being said, I do think Nick knows this to be true and is going to move in this direction, as I have predicted and stated previously. So here's some important things.
About the Holocaust thing?
Oh.
A little bit to this way.
If you can come a little this way.
I can. Here's where I can come, is this. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
About the Holocaust thing?
Oh, about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, really.
I do. And listen, here's what I'll say. Now that I'm older, I do think that's not the best approach. So I agree with you on that. And I see it as I get older, because let's be honest, saying those things when I'm a younger guy.
Wait. Ladies and gentlemen, hold the phone. I fucked up. This is the wrong timestamp. Sorry. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this, but there's actually a way more important part. I can't believe I fucking skipped it. This is literally the highlight of the video.
War.
That I really
Always the how. And I was like, didn't mean that. I in a holy. Everybody else.
Jeez, I wish
Yeah. I say it.
Okay, here is the highlight of the video. Hold on, first off. Oh, what was the Bluegrass album and artist, please? Remind me. Ask me after this, and I will share it. Ladies and gentlemen, Pungent Zeus, the absolute patron of this channel, playing Red Dead Redemption 2, drinking tequila. I don't know what word that is. There's no words on it. To play us out and watch my boy. Godspeed, Pungent. And I'll refer to you as Pungent until you give me the green light to refer to you as the name I truly know you by. But thank you once again, sir. I appreciate it for propping this operation up. Okay. This, in my opinion, is the highlight of the entire interview.
Yeah, like, can you think of an example of like when you listen back to something and you're like, geez, I wish I could.
So I did this rally in 2023 called Fuentes Rally 2. And the one comment I said, we're talking about a spiritual battle between Christians and everybody else. And I said, we're in a holy war. I said, and we're going to make them die in a holy war. And the second I said that, I was like, didn't mean to say that. It's an extemporaneous speech. So you don't rehearse it. You just say things. And I was like, didn't mean that. Shouldn't have said that. So it's always the how. It's always in the delivery that I...
Nick, I can think of about 4 things that I really wish you would take back right now.
Like what?
The cookies in the oven.
Well, that's a joke.
But it's not, Nick. My wife is Jewish. My son is Jewish. No, Nick. I promise you. Don't get mad.
I'm not mad.
Okay,
It's
I know. But okay. But you got to understand how incredibly, whether it's a joke or not, it's a lived experience passed down from generation to generation, whether or not and by the way, not just from the Holocaust, not just from 1939 on, 2,000 years of history. Okay. Forget about Israeli politics and Netanyahu, because I think we agree about Bibi Netanyahu. I'm positive we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've listened to you talk about it, but you got to understand, look at me, man.
I see.
It hurts. It hurts.
Nick,
I promise you it does. When you compare my wife's family to cookies going to an oven, it hurts. And you've got to understand that. And by the way, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
And I believe that you do know that.
See, that's where you...
See, this is me talking to FD Signifier about anti-white racism. I'm like, FD, it sucks when people make jokes about how there's too many white people. And he goes, does it suck? Does it? I'm like, yeah, it does. Anyway.
Lose me. That's where you lose me.
Okay, Nick. Okay, I'm telling you.
Well, listen, are we here to talk or are you here to lecture me and preach
Okay, no,
to
you're
me?
right. Let me listen.
Okay.
So you're right.
So
You're right.
this is the
Okay.
thing, because, and I think this is a disconnect. I think that the left and even people on the right, they're losing the young people. Why do people love me? Not in spite of, but because of the outrageous things that I say. Not in spite of, but because I say offensive things. Because I, let's say, drop the N-word on a video or something. It's because people are sick of the preachiness, the
Nick.
lecturing.
Okay, I'll listen
They
to what
really
you
are.
say. But Nick, I disagree. I think that you're appealing to the lowest common denominator of thought. If you're hating on the people that they think...
Okay, hold on. This is the important part.
I think that it is that kind of overbearing sense for our entire...
Nick, I'm the king of edgelord.
Well,
I'm the
in
king
a
of
certain
being
way.
provocative.
Let's let Nick explain
I know.
the psychology.
You know,
behind
it's
edgelords.
that overbearingness that my generation's had our entire lives. That's not appropriate. That's not funny. Think of the trauma. That's racist. That's white supremacist. That makes it funny. That makes it different, interesting. And let me grant, by the way, I think that now, and this is maybe a concession towards you, now that my kind of humor has become mainstream and popular, I don't even think that that's funny anymore. People do the edgelording thing. It's become so commonplace and so tired. I don't think it's that funny or impressive. That's a big part of why I kind of moved past it, because 10 years ago, it was treated treated like sacrilegious. And there's something funny about the fact that you could say a word or make a joke and make people lose their minds and freak out. And it was like an international incident if you said the wrong thing. And I think that's what made it tempting, especially for a young person. You want to rebel. You want to be defiant. You want to be a little revolutionary or something. Now, as time has gone on, I think that's become a fad. Everybody does it. It's lost its power. And I think that, by the way, part of why we're getting less of it is because instead of getting the preachy lecture from the left saying that's not appropriate, people just roll their eyes. Now, when an edgy white person says the N-word, people roll their eyes and go, really? You know, that joke again? People hear someone wears a Nazi costume, makes a Holocaust joke. People go, really? That joke again? It's not impressive. It's not funny anymore. We've seen it before. And ironically, that is what makes you get less of it when you disempower those things by not giving them this over-the-top reaction, pretending like it's some great travesty.
So you think the new counterculture is going to be woke again?
No, I think it's a synthesis.
A synthesis of post-edgelordism and wokeism?
Yes, because I think that wokeism
Sounds good
had
to
its
me.
excesses.
Yeah.
Edgelording also has its excesses. And I think now we're finding a middle ground between saying the edgiest thing we can think of with no regard for anyone and saying everything is racist. You know, if you say something, you should lose your job. We're finding a middle ground where, you know, maybe it's tastefully offensive in small doses, less is more.
So it sounds like you
PF Young, come and save me. PF Young, come and save me. Oh my God. A synthesis between woke and edgelord. A synthesis between far left and far right. There's gotta be a meme for this, doesn't there? Doesn't there have to be a meme for exactly what is being said here? For pointing out that, look, at a certain point, you can actually cause too much collateral damage when you make certain iconoclastic jokes that are necessary. It's important to blow open a hole in the wall. But if you blow open the entire city while you're at it, then the whole mission is moot. And Nick Fuentes, edgelordism is iconoclasm. It's saying, fuck all of your taboos about racism and all that. We're going to lean into it. We're not going to care about it. If you go too far into it, then what do? You actually foster genuine racism. You foster genuine anti-Semitism. You get people to start genuinely saying things like black and white people cannot coexist, which is the most demented, self-evidently false thing around. Wokeism is the, oh, we gotta be careful. Don't say this, don't say that. That's racist. Don't say that. And if you get the excess of that, well, we've seen that, where you say anything that's even remotely true and, oh, it's racist. Hey, I think that it's not good that, we are cutting off the breasts of 13-year-old children. Oh, that's fucking transphobia. That's literal infringement on civil rights. That's the excess of wokeism. So you need a balance. You must bring them together and create the ultimate mimetic synthesis. What have I been saying? Again, it's like I said at the beginning. It's not about I told you so. Okay? It's not about I told you so. It's about you come to me when you're ready. Okay? And the darkness will be here because the darkness was always there and it will be there long after you and I are gone. I am merely its servant. Deus Vult. To the point, though, on the evolution of Nick Fuentes, because I have said repeatedly that this YN, which stands for young, is going to moderate his views, and it seems very obvious that this is the case.
The Holocaust thing?
Oh, about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, really.
I do. And listen, here's what I'll say. Now that I'm older, I do think that's not the best approach. So I agree with you on that. And I see it as I get older, because let's be honest, saying those things when I'm a younger guy, when I'm, 18, 20, it's like, you got to think that's just the age.
Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
And a lot of young people think that's funny and everything like that. I think that it also goes with the medium as well. Live streaming, social media, that's just what it rewards. So yeah, I think that people should try to move past some of that.
I'll try. But if you try,
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For real. And as it relates to when you talk about Israel, Netanyahu, Likud government, what's happening now, what's happened for the past 20 years in terms of whether the funding to Israel, whether you think it is. It's really important. They're going to be able to pay rent, whether or not you're going to be able to actually put the gas in your car in Montana to drive to your job on the, on the ranch.
Well, and here's what I'll say to you, and this is something kind of why I want to do this interview, is emphasize the message that as far as Jews are concerned in general, I think that it's the same standard that applies to everybody, which is as long as you're patriotic, as long as you believe Americans should be put first by their government, I have no problem at all. And I think that everybody in the country should be treated with dignity and respect and have their civil rights. It's just this acute problem of these people, like you mentioned, like Larry Ellison and Miriam Adelson and Jared Kushner, they're putting some other country before the interest of our own. And that in principle is what I have a problem with.
There is going to be some people who watch this and feel like, all right, no take backsies. And they might feel like you're just kind of trying to moderate, and that now that you've achieved your goal and got a lot of support, you're kind of moderating because your main aim has already been achieved, which is to sort of have a generational run and pop off. So now you're trying to kind of make your way more into the mainstream discourse, but you'll just go back again into the same sort of reactionary rhetoric once you're back in a number one spot.
Well, I don't even think I'm moderating. And I even told our mutual friend, it's not.
Oh, Paul, he just said he's not moderating. You said he is moderating. Oh, you fools. Read between the lines and listen.
Not even a moderation. It's not even an apology. It's clarifying because, all along I've been saying this message. It's just that the way that I'm saying it changes and evolves. And I also think how people respond to it changes as well. Because let's be honest, 10 years ago, there was a very different kind of conversation about Israel. You could not mention it in a negative or critical way without being utterly annihilated in politics. We all know that ever since October 7th, that's not the case anymore. So I think that there's sort of something reciprocal happening, which is that people are receiving me differently. And as someone that's growing older and more mature, I'm even representing myself differently. So I wouldn't even call it moderating, just clarifying. People are more receptive and I'm maybe better able to articulate it.
And you think that's because you've kind of gotten older and been able to have like a longer career in media to reflect on different changes in your perhaps brain chemistry and lifestyle?
That's a huge thing. I mean, I know it's 27. I have a very different mentality than I did when I was 20.
What's the main difference, you think?
Just more even keeled. And I think too, it's like when you're 20, you're just like a maniac. And then you hit 25 and you're like, all right,
I was a maniac when I was 49.
So here's the two situations. Either everything Nick Fuentes said there is just a complete lie, and he genuinely is trying to usher in the Third Reich and destroy Jewish people and all that, or what he said is true. And I'm sorry, the internal consistency with everything else he said about, well, edgelording is not really funny anymore, and people aren't receiving it the same. Yeah, that's so. Was all the worst and most horrible and obviously anti-Semitic things that he said, are those his real beliefs, or was that the edgelording? And to me, it's obviously that was the edgelording. And when he says he's not moderating. Look, you have to give everyone an out. You have to give people an opportunity to save face. In what fucking world is Nick Fuentes ever going to admit or apologize for something he said when he will get no credit for it? Right? This is just basic social advice for anyone in any relationship, personal, romantic, whatever. If someone did something wrong, you need to give them an out. You need to allow them to save face. There's literally an entire term called saving face. You got to allow people the space to save face. So Nick Fuentes has his path forward out of moderating, and that is, I'm sick of the idiocy of my own audience. And this is truly, I know I'm right, and to be honest, people who disagree with me are just ignorant beyond belief. If you actually follow and listen to his clips, Nick Fuentes is getting tired of his own audience and his own low IQ anti-Semitism being spewed back in his face. He hates that more so than he hates any individual, but then he hates Jewish people as such. And the path forward will just simply continue to moderate. And it's because he can save face by saying, look, I stopped being anti-Semitic because I realized how fucking stupid all these people are. And Richard Hanania was right. It is low human capital. Not because the left called me racist enough. In fact, that's the thing that's keeping him from moderating further, is people going to call him racist no matter what. So I'm here in the dark center saying, Nick, come forth. Embrace the Christian side of the character you play, more so than the anti-Semitic racist side. And look, again, it all comes down to framing. It's like, I've said this before. You can just play the cynical game of saying, oh, well, the reason he's saying these things is to moderate. He's moderating for the purpose of gaining political power. It's like, well, what's the difference between saying that, and saying he's having his views more reflect reality for the sake of gaining political power? Oh, he's only moderating his views because he wants political power. Okay, what if, unless you're a psychopath and you believe otherwise, what if one way to gain political power is to have a worldview that actually maps onto reality? Like, for example, black and white people can get along, and actually someone's genetics doesn't make them evil or the enemy. And that, Christian ideas of, we're all made in the image of God are actually very good. Oh, he's only adopting those because he wants power. Fine. If changing his worldview to reflect a moral reality is the path to political power, which I believe it is, call it whatever you want. I don't care. But it's very obvious that Nick needs a way of saving face before he can moderate. And I think what I just described is his path. And I don't really care anymore about people who disagree with me. Time will tell. And I can't predict the future, but I'm very comfortable with this almost 6 years of videos I have, because I just seem to get vindicated as every day goes by. And it's nice. Anyway, let's get to this last section here.
Put your phone or computer away, go outside, make a friend, just do anything but scroll to the next video. Back in the day during Nickelodeon, they had Go Outside Day.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we need like one day a week where it's mandated in a tech oligarch sense that no one can go on their phone or use the computer.
Man, I would love that. I mean, that's one thing. Is if the one thing we could all agree on. The way I say it now is you're all carrying around a bag of heroin in your pocket. Everybody is. And
digital crack. The only solution to digital crack is a digital Sabbath. Let's do it. Let's run the experiment, ladies. Let's run the experiment. Okay? Oh my God, it's infringement on, dude. I'm gonna metaphorically beat the shit out of Ryan Mullally in Minecraft because we argued about banning short form content. He's like, it's an infringement on free speech. Brother, the medium is not free speech. It's digital crack. I'm okay doing blanket bans of short form video from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the week to get people off digital crack. Oh, but that's censoring free speech. No, it's fucking not, because every other medium's still available. Long form YouTube, whatever. Just not infinite scroll, not short form video. And it's not ideologically targeted. All viewpoints are equally suppressed. Okay? I'm in favor of censorship as long as everyone gets censored. Okay? Anyway, here's this last point that I think ends on a positive, a potentially rallying note.
Fill up. I am sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island.
And that's why he's not going to be a congressman anymore. But that's why, he could potentially make a really strong national candidate.
And you guys think America will exist in a post-Epstein capture freeway?
Will America exist?
Yeah, will America survive the current power structure's stranglehold on the media, the political system, and all public affairs?
I don't know. I think AI is going to really be transformative. It's interesting. Nobody seems to be talking about that.
Transformative in what sense? Like for bad?
Concentration of power. That's the single biggest. And you know what? I'm actually on the liberal side on this with Anthropic over the, let's say, because there's this battle between these effective altruists, effective accelerationists, and I really am nervous about what's going to happen, especially in the next 4 years, because they're racing towards this artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence, and that, without a doubt, is going to be the single biggest influence on the country. And so I'm really worried about that.
And what about that concerns you? Is it surveillance?
it's the concentration of power in the hands of whoever controls it. Whichever firm is the one to develop ASI, that could confer dictatorial-like powers upon the CEO of that company. So whether that's Sam Altman or it's Dario, if the artificial intelligence is aligned with its creator, that person will become the most powerful person in the history of mankind on
It's
on
almost
that
an
day.
inherent truth, in my opinion, what you just said, is that the greatest leap in human evolution is going to happen within our lifetimes. AGI, let alone, superintelligence, is everything that we think about the way in which we exist in the world completely changes. And I don't think that that's in any way hyperbole. And if you listen to the people that are developing these technologies right now, they are the most alarmist.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world.
If you want to know what life's like when you're not the apex intelligence, ask a chicken.
And now, by the way, I think that there's an enormous possibility for incredibly beneficial things to society, like being able to cure cancer. I just think of this one thing. Everything that AI is built on is ours, belongs to you and you and you, all the way back through the human civilization. That's what they're stealing from us, and they're putting it into the hands of literally a handful of people. All of that human knowledge, and the value that comes from it. And I think that that's ours. So any AI that is developed, particularly that goes to HEE, should be communal.
Sorry, guys, I didn't. Usually, I write down play this clip from here to here, and I didn't do it on this one, and we had to listen to Hunter Biden kind of drone on like we haven't heard these before.
Your bombs, but it's also a commodity. I hope on some level that liberals win that argument. Potential, I think that's going to be the biggest thing, and I hope on some level that liberals win that argument, because what Trump is doing with the Pentagon, Anthropic, and OpenAI, the way they're handling it is so reckless and sloppy and just honestly unbelievable. So we need some adults in the room on that one.
Well, it's been a great conversation. I appreciate you guys for coming. You guys have any final questions you want to ask to each other, or maybe a message you want to give to the American people?
I still believe in America, and I truly believe in these conversations. And I think everyone that's watching would think that I would not want to sit down with Nick. And this, I guess, what I'm getting at with you is that I hope you see the humanity in me, and so when the way that you talk in the future takes that into consideration. And what I'll do is I'll see the humanity in you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great conversation. And I think that, we have to come together on the things that we agree on, which is, for example, that we love the country. We both believe in America. We both want the country to succeed. And I like what you said, that we see the fundamental humanity in each other. And I think that, especially in the events of the last year, the killing of Charlie Kirk, you realize that's actually not something that people on both sides share. I think there's people on the right and the left that don't see the humanity in the other side. And so maybe that's the new consensus, or that's where we can come together, is on the basis that, we disagree on fundamental issues, and even sometimes it gets heated and we yell at each other, but that we do ultimately want the best for each other. We love each other. We want the country to succeed. And I think that's a starting point for any solution and any conversation.
All right, American brothers, thank you guys so much for your
Absolutely.
time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Good job, guys.
It is as I have foreseen. Everything is falling into place. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an interesting conversation, and there were some interesting insights to derive from it. Now, nobody loves respectful dialogue more than I do. All right, it's been 2 hours. Oh my God. We got to do stream reaction content. Now, okay, what was the album? So, recap. We talked about white American identity, and I mentioned what did I mention? I mentioned the Bluegrass album that my friend Nate sent me. It is Fork in the Road by the infamous String Dusters, which I won't play due to copyright. Fork in the Road, Infamous String Dusters. Oh, is that the song? Oh, maybe that's the song. The album, whatever album this is from. Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. Good ass stuff. Okay, let's get to stream reaction content. By the way, Michael said post stream chat in the discussion group. There will be one in the Discord that I might join, depending on how long we're up. I do have to be up early tomorrow and have been up the whole day. And I'm blasting bright light into my eyes before I go to bed, which is not ideal. So I don't think we have too much here in the Discord. So I'm going to share screen audio here. I fucking remembered. We do have some funny things here that I'm looking forward to. First off, any Warhammer plus Jordan Peterson combination is going to be good. By the way, first. Hello, Mr. Non-Kelton Yun. Appreciate it, sir. Greetings.
How we conceptualize transcendent spirits, like is rage a god? Is lust a god? Is fear a god?
I'm a strict monotheist. There's one God, end of issue. There are no demons.
You can be ruled by anger. And you might say, well, yeah, but that's not a god. And I say, well, yeah, let's just hold on about that. First of all, it's not only localized in you, it's everywhere, transcendent and immortal, and it can certainly rule you. Maybe you're angry and afraid and resentful and lustful all at the same time, and that's it. A very high-order malevolent spirit has got you in its grip. For all intents and purposes, a demon, powerful dark motivations, and they know of each other, and they try to outdo each other.
Wait,
well, I think
we don't produce anger, we don't produce lust.
Anger is something that grips you, and so it's got a reality that transcends you.
Then how do I control it? Why am I responsible? If I act out evilly in anger, and anger controls me, I have an excuse.
There are other forces within you, including you, that give you the ability to control it, even if it has some autonomy of its own. Like, you don't have to give yourself over to anger, even though it beckons to you. So I would say you can open yourself up to this possession or decide not to do it. There's a satanic element to it.
Oh, good stuff. I actually played against, for what it's worth, I played against a World Eaters list the other day. They had 5 Forge Fiends, 3 of the shooting ones, and then 2 of the Mauler Fiends. I was playing Bastion Task Force. I won't pull up my... I could pull up my list, actually. I'm really upset that they're getting rid of Oath of Moment for Space Marines. It's one of the examples why I'll never buy. What the fuck? Where is it? Yeah, here's my Bastion Task Force list. Brother. I've got fucking too many tabs open. So basically the key thing here is Iron Father with 10 heavy intercessors for the 5-up Feel No Pain. I put the Ancient and the Librarian in the Assault Terminator squad. This is Bastion plus Hammer of Averni. Excuse me, Bastion plus Librarius. So these Terminators are getting advance in charge and +2 movement. They're disgustingly quick. Then I have Kotiez with another group of 10 heavy intercessors. And then the rest is just Assault Intercessors for the Bastion, procking, scanning and all that. Anyway, I beat the shit out of I didn't beat the shit out of him, but I did beat a World Eaters list. So anyway, the Emperor protects. Okay, excellent submission. Tim, don't know what any of this means. Don't know who these people are. Don't know who this is. Don't know what that is. I'm sure this is a great meme. See, this is an example of a meme that has high mimetic fitness to the immunocompromised. Right? So in the same way that COVID will infect the immunocompromised but not healthy young children, this meme will resonate with people whose psychological makeup is recipient to whatever is being communicated here, but I don't understand it. So we're going to move on. Can the U.S. build more houses with fewer workers? What's this?
Thanks to the new bipartisan housing act that Congress passed, we're building more homes. Good, because the housing shortage is bad. We're behind as many as 6 million units in the U.S. Well, the good news is this act provides incentive for local governments to build and promotes home ownership. All right, bring in the crew. Where's the rest of them? It all started in the 1970s when home builders and corporate America formed a lobbying group to weaken labor laws. Okay. You see, union workers working on these construction sites were paid well and had great benefits. So what happened? They went after the unions, and ultimately the unions lost. So more and more non-union labor crews were on these construction sites. But how is that affecting us here today? I'll take anyone in this crew, union or non-union. I'm getting there. So at this point, young Americans looking for work saw that there was less union work and that union work had less benefits and less pay and less opportunities. So they started looking for other jobs that weren't in construction. Then who took those jobs? Immigrants. It was a steady job and became even more viable in the 1980s thanks to President Reagan's pro-immigration policies. Ronald Reagan, the actor. Reagan was pro-immigration, and George H.W. Bush took it a step further, signing the Immigration Act of 1990. So by the time of the housing boom in the early 2000s, immigrants looking for work made up more and more of these construction crews in a job that now paid less because of the union busting of the 1970s. Fine, where are those workers here today? This new wave of immigration enforcement is scaring them away, which is directly affecting the building industry. I don't mind immigrants working on my construction site, sure, but ICE agents keep showing up to construction sites, so it's not worth the risk for a lot of these workers. Okay, I guess we'll make do with you for now. Oh, I'm not working this site. I just found this drill on the ground. But I do make news videos. Subscribe.
Interesting. Well, look, maybe we should be encouraging jobless young men, of which there are many, to get into the goddamn construction force. Ah, that's right, Shallow Hendricks. This is a 12 axes test. I'm going to save this for later because I'm too tired now. So we'll do this in the next stream. I might do a dedicated stream just for that. Shiloh Hendricks, we'll get to this. Here, I'll get to that at the end. I have it written on my thing. Nolan Odysseys as post-war consensus. How long is this? How long is this? It's a bit too long, Skydon. It's a bit too long, Joe. It's about the West and how civilization unravels once it stops believing in itself. I've always loved local movies. Okay. I will add to my watch later, or rather, I'll save it for a different one. I think we'll do a stream later this week. That's just chilling. So we'll keep this one for that. Tim said, which he shouldn't be. This is not a discussion channel, Tim. This is a links and submissions channel, but that's fine. Cast aside the real problem is modern directors aren't capable of inhabiting a non-universal moral epistemology the Odyssey was written in. Can't grasp virtue. The idea of Odysseus settling down after his adventure because he's rooted and attached to a time place is alien to modern audiences. Interesting. Casey, we're trying to share something. I got an access denied page. All right, Casey, what kind of malware are you developing? Oh my God. Spot the neolib. Find the selected target. This is actually malware, isn't this? I trust you, Casey. Find in a cloud of PFing faces. Every game now starts at level 6. They add one raw cost. Choose your neolib. Of course, we're going to play Casey. What do I have to do? Select the neolib? Oh my God. Where is he? God damn it, Casey. There's too much darkness. Am I going to lose? Casey. All right, Casey, one more time. Fuck. No shot. No shot. Casey, that's a fucking 10 out of 10, man. 10 out of 10 for custom video games. We'll leave that one up as well for a little bit in case people want to see it. Excellent submissions, everyone. First off, excellent submissions. Okay, we'll get back to these later this week. Shiloh Hendricks, real quickly. I'll give my prepared lawyer statements here. There's a Fire article about it, and I don't mean it in the way the Zoomers mean it. I mean from the organization Fire. Free. Ooh, what does it actually stand for? I think it's Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, leading defender of fundamental rights on college campuses. Okay, well, Shiloh Hendricks was not on a college campus. You can tell because she called a black child the N-word, which is a very non-college educated thing to do, one might say. A few years ago, the Supreme Court reaffirmed a basic free speech principle. The First Amendment protects an individual's right to speak his mind regardless of whether the government considers his speech sensible and well-intentioned or deeply misguided and likely to cause anguish or incalculable grief. Yet that principle appears to have been cast aside in the prosecution and conviction of a woman who hurled racial slurs in a public park. Shiloh Hendricks was at a playground last year with her toddler when an 8-year-old black boy allegedly stole from her. Hendricks chased the child, calling him N-word repeatedly. The incident drew the attention of a bystander who began recording. She responds to "none of your fucking business," and then repeats it and says, "fuck you, N-word, N-word, N-word." We'll see what the internet has to say about that. Indeed, the whole video went viral. Yes, we know. Yesterday, the jury acquitted Hendricks on the count involving the child, but convicted her on the count arising from her interaction. The judge immediately sentenced her to probation, community service, and a $1,000 fine. Well, fortunately, I believe her GoFundMe was like several $100,000. So in this case, she is a net gain on that one. Unless the trial record contains some critical fact absent, this conviction cannot stand. The video merely shows a heated exchange, no threats, no violence, nothing beyond words. However much offense that caused, it does not justify the government imprisoning, fining, or otherwise punishing the speaker. A public argument is not because of crime because the speaker used a word. The jury reportedly was instructed on the quaint fighting words doctrine, although still technically an exception. The court recently threw cold water on fighting words, observing is not upheld a conviction in 80 years, involving a man who had choice words for a police officer. It's a good thing the fighting words exception has been sharply limited and arguably erased. Violent individuals shouldn't have a veto over what others can say. Even if fighting words doctrine still has a pulse, it's very hard to see how it applies to Hendricks. Clearly, she was not trying to fight the guy. But courts have made it clear that even the most taboo are not fighting words per se. Nothing about the interaction suggests her words were likely to provoke immediate violent incident. However one feels about what she said, the proper response is counterspeech. But allowing the imposition of criminal punishment erodes the important limits on the government's power to police speech. If officials could publish people for speech based on how others might act, there'd be no principled stopping point. From the river to the sea, calling an activist a terrorist sympathizer, someone calling a preacher a bigot, all could face prison time. Chaplinsky itself illustrates this point. The defendant was convicted of an offense in the vein of disorderly conduct for calling him a goddamn racketeer and a damned fascist. Speech today that is unquestionably protected. Well, this is my opinion on it. My opinion is that you can't use the government to fine someone for saying the N-word, which I'm not going to say on stream. I say it offline. I say it in contexts that are not truly offensive or derogatory in any way. And there is something to be said about, I respect Black Americans who are of the same American identity than I am. But I'll be like, you know what? I'm not going to use this term. I'm not going to get FD in any more trouble than he already is. Okay? FD's already in trouble for talking to me twice. And maybe again, according to him. What do I value more? Being edgy or not giving grief? Making life harder for people who I actually respect on an individual basis. Anyway. Not Kelton. For $5, thank you. The guy who was recording also apparently got a GoFundMe. Also was convicted. Really? You're kidding me. Who recorded Shiloh Hendricks? Wait a minute. Is he actually? Sharmake Omar? Well, according to the AI, Mr. Spreader of Misinformation, Omar has no felony convictions. Court records show he has a minor local record consisting of traffic infractions and a petty misdemeanor guilty plea for disorderly conduct. He was charged with 3rd and 5th degree criminal sexual conduct, but dismissed all charges. So you say, oh, but he was charged with it. Yeah, it's called innocent until proven guilty, ladies and gentlemen. And the court dismissed it. So misinformation. Thank you for the $5 super chat that allowed me to correct the record and run an exercise in not spreading misinformation. I do appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's enough blasting LED light into my eyes. 40 minutes before I try and go to bed here. Let's check into our tweet. Like I said, Friar Calvin Robinson retweeted me at the beginning of the stream. Actually, let me hold on. Before I share this, let me first take a look in case I could get canceled here. Oh, all right. Not as viral as I thought. Whew. I don't need to be going viral in the Calvin Robinson spaces. The term Judeo-Christian has sparked a lot of debate. It wasn't about the founding fathers being Jewish. It's a fact that they're referring to the shared biblical worldview, which is why from now on I'll be referring to Hamas as a Judeo-Muslim organization, because Islam and the Jews share the same prophets. Isn't that funny? Classic meme smithing. I think this is a good meme. I'm going to make a prediction that me using anytime I'm talking to someone who brings up the term Judeo-Christian, I'm going to say Judeo-Muslim and make the same point. Fair? All right, everyone. I do appreciate it. Michael, I hope that tequila anejo is tasting good. I did share the Bluegrass album. White Iverson, we talked about. I think we're covered. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been yet another successful installment of P.F. Young Live. You called him by his name by accident. No, he typed in his name. I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. All right, I saw it with my own eyes. Anyway. I was in Los Angeles over the weekend. I actually I went to the Hermosa Beach and the Manhattan Beach Library on Friday and Saturday morning, respectively, from about 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Did about 4 hours of editing on the book that I'm working on. Made decent progress there. Did some editing today. But this week, I have to now edit these streams, which I will not finish tonight. I'll do tomorrow. Which will probably take all day tomorrow. And then go back to editing. And that will take up most of Thursday and a good chunk of Friday. And probably Saturday. My new thing is I'm waking up at like 8 a.m. on Saturday, and from like 8 a.m. to like 4 or 5 p.m. do shit. Right? Because look, the truth is, and I'm very, hold on. Nicotine. Appreciate it. You can become a YouTube channel member for $1.99 a month, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't get you anything other than, obviously it supports me, and I do really appreciate it. Jason Waddington with $20. Yes, haircut. Jason Waddington. I appreciate it. I go to my barber and I say, give me the dick. The Dick Spencer. Thank you, though, Jason. Yeah, so my new thing is actually being productive on Saturday. Basically, here's the gist of it. Ever since I quit my job, there's been two little demons, two little archetypes chattering, like Black and White. For those, by the way, Black and White, the video game Black and White, was developed by Demis Hassabis, who is the head of DeepMind at Google. Isn't that fucking insane? For those who've played Black and White, which is going to be a very small number of you, an absolutely epic game. You actually can't buy it online. I think you have to buy the physical copy because of some copyright dispute that makes the game now unavailable, which is just a classic product of the digital age. We are now robbed of one of a genuinely phenomenal video game. Anyway, it's like it was developed. The guy who did the AI system for Black and White, which is a great AI system, is now the head of DeepMind at Google. Who would have thought? Anyway, my point is, like in Black and White, you have your good and evil conscience. I have two parts on me. Two parts of me. There's a little CJ the X over here, and then there's a little Alex Hormozy over here. Okay, and CJ the X is telling me, pursue art, pursue beauty, pursue virtue, pursue love of its own sake. Virtue will guide you. Be practical, be realistic, but like ultimately you should be guided by virtue. And then there's Alex Hormozy, who's just straight autism, and he's saying, abandon your family, abandon everything, work 80 hours a week, kill everyone you know, make money, hustle. And I have to mediate between the two. And I have, for the longest time, leaned towards the CJ the X side of things. But practically speaking, really as a solution to my own slothfulness, I need to be self-conceptualizing as a small business owner. I mean, technically I am incorporated. Because, for the last year, or really the first 8-9 months, I was putting in like realistically 30 to 40 hours a week. Like I was doing work. I was getting stuff out consistently. But like, that's not enough. Like if I'm trying to be serious here, if I'm trying to actually make an impact, trying to actually do something, it's got to be 50 to 60 hours of like sitting down and doing shit. And I'm at the point where there's now literally an endless amount of stuff I could be doing, working on this channel. I could be making shorts. I could be just watching my own stuff back to find clips for shorts or clips for YouTube videos. Listening to podcasts to prepare for guests. Booking more guests. Writing Substack articles to supplement the video. Like it's an endless amount of stuff. There's really no reason that I can't be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day at the co-working space working. So I'm trying to get on that. And it's kind of embarrassing that it's taking me this long. But better late than never. And also, I'm hemorrhaging cash. So I do need to make this more sustainable. And it's on me to do that. Hemorrhaging cash is a bit of an overstatement. But point is, I do need to take this seriously and stop being so fucking lazy. So anyway, it's time to go a little bit more Alex Hormozy. It's time to lean into that autistic, abandon your family, hustle and grind to no end forever. Anyway, we're going to wrap this shit up, ladies and gentlemen. Employ AI or hire someone, bro. Yeah, that's actually this true. I do use AI to some degree. I use AI to write all my scripts. Sorry, I mean, anyway. Hi, Paul. Conservatives in here. I got to ask, how do you think Hunter Biden's reputation and recoup is going? I think it's going great. I like Hunter Biden. He's a real G. He's a real. All right, hold on. We're going to end with this. Throw them on your donation pages. Maybe. I've always felt that was kind of ratchet to throw you like a Venmo or a Cash App. Like, here's my I'm like, what do you Patreon, YouTube. These are like clean, formal. It's so racist. So implicitly racist what I just said there. Maybe I should though. Maybe I'll do like a I don't know, something. I'm going to end with this bar, okay? Speaking of me saying the N-word, I came up with this bar. If you're a black person, you can take this, okay? You can use this. Take this to a rap battle. Ready? Oh, fuck. What was the line? What was the bar? Hold on. It was... All right, ready? Here we go. Yo ass is talking shit. Oh, fucking, hold on, wait, I fucked it up. Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. Embody every ounce of blackness within me. One sec. What was the line? Your ass was talking shit. Oh, here we go. Ready? All right, hold on, wait, I gotta be serious. This is my honest attempt at rapping. This is like, I'm gonna make a sincere attempt. Ready? Yo ass is talking shit. Bitch, I'll beat you. Fuck. Wait, hold on. All right, we got it. Ready? Stop. I know what the issue was. Here we go. Yo ass is talking shit. I'll take you pound for pound. They call me Pfizer mRNA. I'm the most real N-word around. That's it. That's what me and my all-white friends came up with over the weekend. Call me racist, but use it in a rap battle. Oh my God. Nobody clipped this. See, this is a nice thing about not being that relevant or significant. No one will remember this. No one will clip this. This will not be in any permanent record. It'll be washed away. This will never come back to bite me in any sense. Okay? Exactly. Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen. I believe in the Patreon, there's a post-stream discussion. I will hop into it for a hot minute, but only a little bit. In the meantime, Godspeed, everyone. We'll do this again sometime. Peace. Oh, by the way, 07's in the chat. The Zoomers taught me this. It means salute. 07, it's kind of like, it's like a zero. All right. Godspeed, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.